My husband, 33, and I, female 30, are expecting a baby boy. We're barely catching up with preparation and getting everything ready. His mom, kind of a busy body type, but can be helpful at times, invited us for dinner and said she had an important request to make. She brought her request up at the dinner table and blatantly said she wanted to be in the delivery room with me when I gave birth. I was taken back by her request. I thought it had something to do with the nursery or diaper brand. I said I was sorry, but only my mom and my husband will be there. She made a face, got quiet for a while, then brought it up again. She just kept pushing, saying she's as much of a grandmother as my mom, and that she just wanted to be there for support and get the opportunity to see her grandbaby's first movements. Finally, my husband sided with her. I just stared at her and said, "All right, you can have the opportunity to be in the delivery room when your son is giving birth." Everyone stopped eating, and my mother-in-law left the table. In an instant, my husband had me get up, although I wasn't finished with dinner, and said we should leave. He lost it on me in the car, asking what brain cell made me think it was a good idea to sell his mom that I told him his mom kept pushing after I'd already given her an answer. Still, he said this was the most messed up crap he heard me say. I replied that I was frustrated and didn't mean to hurt her feelings and cause issues. He argued that if I don't want issues, then I should stop making stuff difficult and just say yes to his mom's request. He then ranted about how it's his son too, and said if his mom isn't allowed there, he won't be there too. Now, I don't know if he really meant this, or just said it in the heat of the moment, but it had me fuming. He's been ignoring me when I tried to talk to him and act like I'm not in the room. I think I might have gone too far and created tension by responding inappropriately. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I'm so over mother-in-laws demanding to be in the room during labour. "Brenda, I don't want you in my room." No means no should be enough for people like, it's not brain surgery to understand. Someone in labour will most likely only want their nearest and dearest witness to them in their most vulnerable moment. Giving birth is not a spectator. Birth isn't about being there as a grandparent. It's about being there as a support person if you're there, because you're a grandparent too. And you want to experience babies. First moments, you're not a support person, and you can wait like the rest of the people who aren't supporting the person's giving birth. It's got zero to do with who is an important family member. To the new baby, and carrying on Lika is so manipulative. If your husband doesn't change his tune, I consider appointing your mom as your medical power of attorney and decision maker. The last thing you need is to have a medical emergency while giving birth and having them hunt down your idiot husband as the legal next of kin, rather than asking your mom who has your back. What would be in your best interest actually? What you said makes sense, seeing as we're talking about your body here. However, the reality is that your mother-in-law just did you a favor here because your husband siding with her shows issues in your marriage and the difficulties you're going to face when it comes to decisions about your pregnancy or your child. I would tell him that if he doesn't come into the delivery room when I give birth, and if he's not supportive of my decision concerning my body, our marriage will be over. And he shouldn't bother coming to the hospital at all because he will have to wait until I go back to my parents to meet our son, go see a lawyer, prepare for a divorce just in case, and try to get an appointment with a therapist to help you. Our son is a very picky eater. Our son, Tween, is a very picky eater. There are a few foods that he loves to eat, such as pizza, chicken, steak, and pasta. He's working with someone that's helping him try new foods. My wife 41 wishes he wasn't picky. But I 42 male. Don't see any problems. There have been concerns for family members that our son was underweight in the past. My son is at a good weight. According to his doctor, we went to my in-laws' house for a St. Patrick's party. I brought a small dish of mac and cheese for my son to have for dinner, as he didn't want to have the corned beef. I noticed my wife and her, mother, looking at son and having a private conversation. When it was time for dinner, I put my son's meal on his plate and my wife grabbed the plate. She threw the food in the trash and put some corned beef and cabbage on the plate. Son starts to get upset and pushes the plate away. I looked to my wife and said, "Are you serious?" He didn't want any of the corned beef. That's why I brought the mac and cheese. She looked back at me with a smile and said, "Well, he needs to try new things, and he might like the corned beef." Son whispers to me that he felt sick and wanted to go home. I told my wife that we were leaving and would see her at home. Her sister dropped her off at the house, and she came storming inside, screaming at me that I was the one at fault for not wanting our son to try new foods. We aren't speaking to one another right now, and I've been receiving unpleasant texts from her family. Am I the idiot for leaving without my wife after she tried making my son eat the food he didn't want? Not the idiot. Here, a family dinner like this isn't the time to try to therapize your kid's eating issue from the sound of it. You made a minimal amount of fuss while still including your son in your family's activities. Your wife is the idiot here. Without a doubt, what she's done will only make your son's issue harder to deal with. And she deserves shame and ridicule for it. Agree, my dad won't eat so many foods, especially cheese. Someone made him eat it as a kid, and he just couldn't stomach it. He never forced me to eat anything, and now there are very few things that I won't eat. I was a little picky as a kid, but everyone thankfully let me try things at my own pace. Now I work with kids who often have food issues, and I can guarantee that forcing them and humiliating them in front of family members won't help, given all the whispering between wife and her mom before eating. I bet that her family and possibly wife think that son is just a picky eater and should have to eat what's served, not be allowed any options. And that smile gave me the creeps. Wife got what was coming to her, and Opie is not the idiot. I can see that smile in my head. Unfortunately, it's the same all around the world. The "what are you gonna do about it?" We're in public around other people. You surely won't stand up for yourself. Our son with other people around and embarrass me. Smile that smile has caused so many lasting issues because so many people have felt trapped by it, afraid to rock the boat or make a scene good on you. Ope, I'm so glad your son has you to protect him in this way. I, 49 female, have a big family on my mother's side. My mother had 14 siblings, 7 remaining, and I have almost 30 cousins. My mother's family is very complicated, but I won't talk about that. I have a cousin, Fred, 35 male, with whom my family went no contact, only a few, and his mother are talking to him. The reason was years ago, he got someone pregnant and married her. They were married 3 years and got divorced, and it was a messy divorce. My niece is now staying with her mother and is much better. Fred loved his daughter very much at that time. He quit his job, which was far away, to be able to see his daughter. He would give her anything and play with her. That was before he met a woman named Cara, 45 female. She's a teacher. They got into a relationship, but my family wasn't happy because it seemed like Cara was a sugar mommy to Fred. Fred has been jobless ever since he left his job for his daughter, and Kara is giving him money most of the time. Ever since he met Kara, he seemed to abandon his responsibility as a father to his daughter. Later he announced that he and Kara were getting married. My family was so furious about this. They didn't show up to his wedding. They didn't like Kara at all. She was why Fred and his sister got into a messy fight, leading him to raise his hand to her. Some of our acquaintances told us that Kara had been bad-mouthing our family. Fred's ex-wife is on good terms with us. So when we talked about the wedding, she asked us not to bring her daughters see Fred, as he's not making an effort to see her anymore. Nor is he paying child support, and if she finds out we ignored her wishes, she won't bring her daughter to us anymore. So we agreed. Kara soon gave birth and had a baby girl. Kimmy a year old now. None of our family went to see her, not even once, except for Fred's mother and a couple of others. I also went to see her and only had a few conversations with them. Kimmy often gets sick. Fred is still jobless because he gets fired every time he has one. Kara is a teacher. But Kimmy's hospital fees are much bigger than Kara's allowance, so I offered to pay some after all. She's my niece. My husband had been supporting me in this decision. I was invited to their house for dinner, along with some friends. We talked at the table, and then I excused myself to go to the bathroom when I got up. A guy I knew was outside the bathroom and told me to follow him. So I followed him, and we were standing near a wall, and I could hear Fred talking, saying how I'm like a credit card to them, and how naive and stupid I can be. And my mother was right, that I'm weak-minded. I was hurt. These are my insecurities, and I've always been bullied for that. I was on the verge of tears, so I went out and told Fred that I wouldn't be paying Kimmy's hospital fees in the future. Fred and Kara tried to reason with me, but I didn't give them a chance ever since then. I've refused to talk to them. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot looks like the credit card had an expiration date. They have no one to blame but themselves. I feel bad for the child. However, people will not grow up to responsibilities if others always enable them up. Definitely not the idiot. There are plenty of people in less than ideal situations that would be extremely grateful and humbled for the help. He is obviously not one of those and can file for assistance like everyone else. Now, you know the truth and have a fuller picture of your situation. You are being used and disrespected. They don't need another chance. They will not change. You are the idiot. Kimmy doesn't deserve to be punished any more than she will for having terrible parents. If you just want to pay because she needs treatment, pay it directly to the medical facility. So they get nothing. You're not obligated to do this. I'm just saying separate how you feel about Fred and Kara from how you feel about Kimmy and make your decision. Then don't let them maneuver you into a decision you might regret. That poor kid, she's so screwed. I stormed out of my daughter's therapy session. I'm 43 female, have a 22-year-old daughter, all my daughter's life. She struggled with mental health issues, but if I'm being honest, I never really understood a lot of my daughter's disorders. I've always approached mental illness as something you just bury deep down. And as a single mother, I've tried to do my best, but I know I'm not perfect recently. My daughter asked if I'd go to one of her therapy sessions with her. I only agreed because she seemed super excited about it when we got there. Her therapist first asked me how I was raised to think about mental health. I said I wasn't raised to think about mental health at all. She then said she guessed that it seemed snarky, but I ignored it. She then asked about my family's history with addiction and mental issues. I denied any. And she then started to list everything my daughter told her and asked if they were a lie. Of course, they weren't a lie. But I never saw any of these things as big issues. She then began to explain to me what BPD is. She explained it could be used by many things. But by me invalidating her emotions so much, like I was invalidating my own, had a part to play in it. She then tried to tell me how to cope with my trauma and how it could help my daughter through hers after listening to her spew absolute garbage for 30 minutes. I finally got up and told her she was a quack and didn't know anything she was talking about. I stormed out and left. My daughter called me crying an hour later. And I told her she needed to get an actual therapist instead of that witch. I wasn't upset with my daughter, but I felt like she threw me to the wolves after cooling down. Though I think maybe I could have handled that wrong, but I'm not sure. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. I'd feel sorry for you, since you obviously deny your own shortcomings and upbringing. Still, you don't even have an open enough mind to try to do something other than diminish and invalidate your daughter's perspective. 10 years down the road, you'll be asking yourself, why doesn't my daughter speak to me anymore? Not the idiot. And maybe if the therapist hadn't assumed things about the op and then tried to tell her how to fix her own trauma to fix her daughter, things might have gone better. This is the daughter's therapist. Not the mother's. The therapist didn't handle this meeting well. I'm betting the op felt attacked. This didn't help the mother or the daughter Opie having denied for her entire life. There was an issue reacted to. Someone digging up those issues and shining a spotlight on them by going on the attack. She's doing the adult equivalent of sticking her fingers in her ears and chanting, la la la. I can't hear you. I try to think what her best has been given her reaction here. And I hope therapy has helped her daughter see that this is not her fault and that she is valid, despite her mother's actions. Her therapist has spent years studying this and has a degree in it. This is literally her profession and area of expertise. Stop making this about you, and if you can't, maybe it's time for you to go to a therapist yourself? Your behavior may have lost you your daughter. But if it hasn't, you should be grateful and ask her and listen to what she needs to be able to trust you. My mom blew up at me. My mom usually takes a few vacations a year with her friends, and then another few with my dad. She didn't want to miss any. So we'd planned when she would see me around those. Typically when she gets home from traveling, she spends the initial week visiting her friends and always throws herself a ball return party. Our rules for after our baby is born is 3 months, no visitors, which some people think is extreme. But it's what I need to feel comfortable. Unfortunately, she's only been able to make one of our planned visits about 4 months ago because she had other surprises and trips she wanted to make. She was also upset because we decided not to find out the gender, and her friends threw her a grandma shower and were all upset. They didn't know what clothes to buy my husband, and I live in an apartment, so we don't have a ton of space for extra stuff, and we had specifically asked people not to get us clothes or linens. But when I asked her to tell her friends, she said it would be rude. She called me over the weekend and asked to come to stay this week. But I said no, as I'm busy this week, and it was very last minute, and she just got home from her friend's 65th birthday blowout bash last week, and she blew up at me sobbing for ruining this experience for her. She said I made her party awkward by being weird about the gender. She said she's upset. She will never have felt the baby kick. I don't like being touched though, so even if she hadn't made her planned trip, she wouldn't have. She's upset she didn't get to take any candid pregnancy pictures of me. Another thing I wouldn't have liked. We did a bump shoot, and that was even more than I ever liked to be on camera. frankly, she's upset she didn't have any say in or get to help with the nursery. I thought she was overbearing and blaming me for the choices she made and tried to explain that. But she just kept saying I was purposely trying to cut her out and I was succeeding in making her not want to meet the baby at all. Which isn't my intention. My dad usually agrees with me when she's like this. But he's upset with me too and says this is different because it isn't about her. It's about her relationship with her grandchild. I'm very torn because I know lots of people want their mothers around, and it's not that I don't. It's just, she does cause me stress, and the one thing that could minimize the stress sticking to our schedule, she didn't do. I the idiot. Your mother is a child. She needs tons of vacations and tons of input on her grandchild. But won't compromise. She has a pregnant child. And instead of being supportive, she's stressing her out, making everything about herself, while also being extremely unreasonable. Not the idiot, your mom is a piece of work. Your pregnancy isn't about your mom becoming a grandma. It's about you and the baby. Whatever you and the baby need to be safe and sane should be accepted with no questions about gender again. She's trying to make this about her. It was awkward for her, not knowing the gender as she never heard of gender. Neutral clothing might I suggest seeing if you can find a therapist who can help you navigate the stress of dealing with a narcissistic parent. Now is the time to set the boundaries with your mom. Unfortunately, I doubt this is going to get better as for your father's comment about her relationship with her grandchild. A just-born baby knows nothing about anything other than the basics: eating, sleeping, pooping, repeat. So the relationship doesn't really start for a while. Congratulations, by the way, and I know many grandmas, and not one of them had a grandma shower you.